If you're a fan of the band Journey, I think you're going to really enjoy this video. I was reminiscing a little bit because not long ago we did a video about Steve Perry going back to his childhood home and giving some money to a hospital, to a charity. And it just got me thinking about Journey a little bit. It was actually the first concert I ever went to was Journey back in 1982. And rather than getting out the album Escape, which the tour was on, I thought I'd get out the t-shirt. This is the actual t-shirt that I got back in 1982. My dad took me to see Journey. And that's the t-shirt I got. That's the front. Here's the back. And it says there, Denver, Colorado, McNichols Arena, May 27, 28, 1982. McNichols Arena no longer stands. It was replaced by, I don't know what they call it anymore. It was Pepsi Center. They may have changed the name since then. Put a lot of miles on this shirt when I was a kid. Anyway, so I was reminiscing a little bit and I thought, I wonder if I could go do some research and find a concert review from that tour and see what people said about it at the time, about the show. So I found actually a concert review from the Daily Illini. I'm not sure how you say that. October 6, 1981. It's on page 20 of this newspaper. I just thought I'd read this to you. It's kind of cool, kind of interesting how they responded to that concert. And of course, Escape was such a pivotal album, not just in Journey's career, but really for the 80s in general. I mean, it really set the stage for so much of what was going to happen. A lot of people credit them with the song Open Arms, which was on that album, which a lot of the band members, Neil Schon especially, didn't want to have on that album because it was just such this soft, kind of slow song. Didn't really seem to fit with what they wanted to do. And if you know the story, Jonathan Cain, who joined the band before the album Escape, was just sitting at the piano playing this little song, and Steve Perry hears him and he goes, "What's that?" And Jonathan Cain says, "Just a little thing I wrote, and I wanted to play it in the Babies, but John Waite didn't like it, and so we didn't do it." And Steve Perry goes, "That's his loss. I want to do that song." So they created the song Open Arms, and then they put it on the album Escape. And it's the last song on the last side, kind of like they were trying to hide it. And then that ended up just being this massive breakthrough hit for that band. And so they're kind of credited with creating what we kind of call the power ballad. Anyway, and so that ended up becoming kind of a thing through the 80s. Every band had to have their power ballad. And so, anyway, but the album also, I mean, it had Don't Stop Believin', it had Who's Crying Now, it had Stone in Love. I mean, it was such a huge, pivotal album for Journey. It was the biggest thing they did. And so they went on tour. Of course, Steve Perry, he was such a showman. And I saw him a couple different times, and he was just so awesome in front of a crowd every time, the times that I saw him. He just could get up there in front of everybody and just take charge of the place. It was really amazing guy, amazing performer. So if you're listening to this rather than watching it, above the headline in this article, you'll see a picture of Neil Schon on the left, and he's playing a Gibson Les Paul, and then over on the right, you'll see the four guys. And it's a newspaper, so it's really hard to make out who's who in the picture very clearly. But I'm going to read this to you. I think you'll like it, especially, again, if you like the band Journey, and especially if you saw them on this tour or just ever saw them in concert, because, again, Steve Perry was just so good. So the title of this article is Journey Sways to Hit Parade Beat. Okay, here it is. Seats were being sold behind the stage Friday as fans jammed into the Assembly Hall to see Journey, a band whose popularity has skyrocketed in the past few years. And that's pretty interesting because I actually remember that stood out to me, that when we saw Journey, that there were people sitting literally behind the stage in this big arena. And the reason I remember that is because I would see concerts after that, and I would notice how people weren't sitting behind the stage. And I thought it was strange because the first concert I went to, they were. But they were just so popular. People would sit wherever. We'll sit behind the stage to watch them. So it's interesting in this case, same thing. Older fans came to see if the original band members, Neil Schon guitar, Ross Valerie bass, Steve Perry vocals, and Steve Smith drums, were still the same band they knew from Infinity, and to see if new keyboard guitarist Jonathan Cain was as good as founding member Greg Raleigh. It's interesting to hear them say if the original band members, because Neil Schon, of that list there, Neil Schon and Ross Valerie are the only truly original band members of Journey. But as it says there, Jonathan Cain was brand new for the album Escape, because it had always been Greg Raleigh. Greg Raleigh was the keyboardist, and he and Neil Schon had left Santana and started the band Journey. And then they put out 3 albums before Steve Perry was brought into the band. And then they just made some radical changes. And that's actually when they really became popular. Greg Raleigh left the band. Jonathan Cain came in. And so this was different. Jonathan Cain brought a new personality into the group at that point. And Greg Raleigh, who had actually been a lead singer and had sang a lot of the lead stuff on the other Journey albums, now he's gone, and it's really all Steve Perry at this point. The newer fans, though, including many pre-college faces, were drawn by the recent success and popularity of Escape. Either way, the pre-concert focus was on Cain, who came to Journey through the recent breakup of the Babies. Cain's influence on Escape seemed to be turning Journey back to a new and musical direction. New and musical direction. His guitar playing ability freeing the band from the leash of having a keyboard line in every song. So, and that's interesting because, for example, if you listen to the song Stone in Love, which is on the album Escape, if you get a chance to go listen to it, you'll hear Neil Schon start out with this guitar riff, "Those crazy nights I do remember in my youth," and that's what Steve Perry comes in. But then you'll hear another guitar come in that doubles what Neil Schon's doing, and that's actually Jonathan Cain, because he had the ability to play the guitar, so he added that extra dimension, even in the live shows, that, like he says there, they didn't have to have that keyboard line in every single song, because Greg Raleigh, they didn't have a full-time keyboard player. He could do something else. Okay, so in concert, though, the band's musicality gave over to flash and hype, entertaining the audience with personalized, quote, stage setup, which allowed free movement of band members, several flashes and explosions, and a great light show. Within the first few songs, Cain's musical influence is lost in a sea of Sean leads and Perry vocal extravaganzas. The band played a surprisingly short set of 17 songs, which lasted about an hour and a half. It brought the subdued audience to its feet several times with a barrage of hits, old and new, opening with the title track from Escape, followed by last year's opener, Where Were You, and Line of Fire. Journey immediately came in selling Cain as a guitar player, showing off its freedom from Raleigh's keyboards. The show then relaxed into a hit parade with Perry and Schon dominating. It included some excellent work on Stone in Love, that was the one I mentioned just a second ago from the album Escape, Lights, Stay a While, Dead or Alive, Who's Crying Now. It's amazing when you look at the library of songs that Journey put out. The stuff before Escape, they had so many great songs. And then Escape, it was just amazing that they just kept growing and growing. And then when Escape came out, to have something so spectacular, even having had so many great songs prior to this. And fairly exciting drum solo by Smith. Sorely missing, though, was a keyboard solo by Cain, which was an important part of the Babies live show. The most rewarding part of the evening came with Wheel in the Sky. Again, Wheel in the Sky keeps on turning. I mean, huge song. And this was, like I said, they had so many great tunes, which closed the regular set. The band has changed it from its original Infinity state into a powerfully jamming tune with Cain on guitar and a whole new guitar lead line for Schon. Journey ended the hit barrage, quote, with an encore of 2 of their biggest AM hits, Lovin', Touchin', Squeezin', and Any Way You Want It, both of which are very commercial, but nevertheless instant audience pleasers. And Steve Perry, again, what a singer. You listen to him in Love and Touch and Squeezin', he's so great in that song. And then Any Way You Want It, which is one of their, touchstone Journey songs. The harmony that it starts out with, any way you want it, that's the way. It's so great. Nevertheless, instant audience pleasers. In contrast to Journey's commercial appeal was the opening act, the Greg Kihn Band. And when I saw them, Greg Kihn Band opened up, whose set lacked the Journey flash, but was very tight musically. Well, it lacked the flash partly because you don't have Steve Perry in the band. The band's pure rock sound punches right to the heart and is immediately appealing. It opened to a typically sparse audience, some of which were fans from the band's appearance at Mabel's. Most of those seemed not to be interested until the band played more familiar tunes like Valerie and the summer hit, They Don't Write 'Em Like That Anymore, which drew the audience into the band. And of course, that's the one that kind of everybody knew from the Greg Kihn Band back then. It was, I don't remember the words, but it goes, and words and song. You've heard that song before. And then the chorus goes, they don't ride like that anymore. Probably heard that song before. Anyway, that was Greg Kihn Band. And so, anyway, so that's what we were always referring to there, which drew the audience into the band. The Greg Kihn Band really geared up the audience for the Journey hit parade to come. And it did come. With the loss of Greg Raleigh, Journey has severed all ties with the past and has changed from an instrumental jazz fusion bass band to a totally commercial hit producer. When it says all ties with the past, I think what's really saying is those first three albums, which were kind of a little bit of that jazz Santana sound, and they just lost it because they didn't cut all ties with the past because we just listed several songs from previous albums. This concert was based on the band's commercial endeavors and was very entertaining on that level. It would have been better if Cain had as much influence on the live show as he did on Escape. That's actually, I mean, such an important thing because so many of those hits that came off of there really were him. And you may even move into the next album. You know, what was the Faithfully, which came off of that? You got John Cain, piano, keyboards, and he had such a massive influence. Don't Stop Believin', which even to this day, which was the first song on the album Escape, to this day, you know, those keyboards, that Jonathan Cain influence was such a big deal. And Don't Stop Believin' today is popular. It was probably a decade ago. I was singing for kind of a corporate wedding band. And this is again now 30 years plus after this song had come out. And we would play that song at a wedding party. And you know, this is filled with 20, 21, 22-year-old kids, and they're all singing along to that song. Anyway, it's amazing the impact that he had. So his musical support was missed even in the songs he co-wrote. Someone has to even out the balance, which was at this concert swaying too much towards Sean and Perry's dominating commerciality. Okay, that's an interesting opinion to hear there. But when you have Steve Perry, the charisma and his just his stage presence and what he does there, and then Neil Sean, of course, is such a great guitar player. But they were going to dominate the stage no matter what, just because of who they were and what they brought to the show. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. If you saw them on that tour, I'd love to hear about it because obviously a lot of people saw them on that tour. And then if you saw them again on any others, I saw them on the Raised on Radio tour a few years later. And although I didn't love that album, Steve Perry still just had that thing on stage, whatever that was. He was just amazing. You get him in front of 18,000 people and he just owned that place. There's not a lot of guys, frontmen in bands that can just walk up on stage and have that dominating presence like he did. Hey, as always, please follow the channel, like the video, love to hear your comments. And from that, as always, have yourself a fantastic day.